Hey everybody, this is The Vibe Broken Arrow, and with a very showy City Manager Michael Spurgeon, I am the Communications Director for the City of Broken Arrow, Aaron McCulloch. I'm part of the communications team here at City Hall, and we have the great pleasure of putting together, as he was showing you, this annual report here. It is Thrive, Your Money at Work. This is something that we've been doing for the past 8 or 9 years. It's a very comprehensive publication that we put out about the city's finances, the money coming in, the money going out. And I know this plays a big part in one of your tenets of communication and transparency. If you want to talk about that just a little bit and why this is so important.
I've always felt like that once a year, the city should put out a more comprehensive piece. I mean, we put out communications throughout the entire year about everything that we have going on here at City Hall and around the community. But I believe once a year, there needs to be a comprehensive document. And that's what Thrive really is. It lets the public know where the money's coming from, which is their tax dollars, and where that money's going and how it's spent. And this document has evolved over the 8 or 9 years. It's become even more comprehensive than I first thought it would be, because not only do we have what has always been there's been a couple of components. One has been exactly what folks are paying in sales tax and shows them based on the current tax rates what they're paying in property taxes for the average or median home in our community. And then there was always the piece about the projects we're working on. Well, we've expanded that to even to include the different utility rates that we charge compared to other utility departments or other cities in this case. And we've added some additional features with your help about some of the recognitions that we've received over the last couple of years, that just talks about why Broken Arrow is a great place to live, work, and raise a family.
Yeah, we talk a lot about sales tax and how that elasticity with it, and how it's kind of a roller coaster. It has its ebbs and flows, and that sales tax is how we do operations, how we pay for operations here. We're able to use property tax for operations too. Am I correct or no?
No, we're not. Actually,
Okay.
The state constitution generally prohibits cities from being able to use any property taxes for general operations. I mean, we get to use it for really only two things. Number one is the repayment of general obligation bonds that the voters have approved, and any judgment the city council should choose to put on the tax rolls. But in terms of paying for any of the operations of our municipality, that's not allowed by state constitution. Now, there have been some discussions because obviously of the elasticity there is, and the instability is probably a better word for sales tax. In fact, Oklahoma is one of just 1 or 2 states left in the entire country that is so heavily reliant upon sales tax, which ebbs and flows, and it does create some challenges for us. And so, but no, I'm pleased to say, and a lot of people will ask us, well, how much do we pay in local property taxes? And we will certainly share that information, but none of it goes for any operations. It's just for repayment of debt service primarily.
And when you talk about that repayment of debt service, we have about 6-7 pages here that talk about completed FY24 projects, current FY25 projects, and many of those are bond projects. Yes. We had that last bond in 2018, and then there's also a spot in here where we talk about the most recent series of sales for the bonds. Any particular bond item on here as far as the most recent sale, which was about almost $24 million. Is there anyone on here that you're most excited about? I know you're excited about all the improvements that go on, but is there one that kind of sticks out for you that you're really particularly jazzed about?
I've always believed that when you go to the voters and they approve funding for you to do a project or projects or initiative, that the city has a responsibility after the initiative has been approved to make sure that you tell the folks that it got approved. And secondly is to let them know when you're in the process of going through the construction phase. And then when the project is done, is to share with them that the project's done, and then remind them that the project is done. So really it's a matter of promises made, promises kept. And that's what I'm most proud about here in Broken Arrow, is that I think we do a fantastic job, one of the best in the country, in my opinion, of saying, here's what the voters gave us the funds for, here's what the status of that project, and we finish it, and reminding them we finish it. Because I think that's very important, because it helps maintain trust amongst the citizens, that when you tell them you're going to do something, that you actually do it, and then you remind them that you did it, because we all have busy lives, and sometimes it's several years between bond packages. And so in this case, 2018 was the last bond package we did. We're currently looking at preparing for a bond package vote to the voters in April of 2026. So generally, you're always going to hear me focus on thank you for approving this. This is the status, and then thanking you that it's completed, so that way public knows. Now, as far as this project, I can tell you is that there's so many, we're over $23 million, I believe, of actual projects. I mean, if you think about some of the things that are most important to me right now, there's a couple of road projects that I really want to see come to fruition, probably starting next year. Construction will start, and that is Aspen from Indian Springs Sports Complex up to the Creek Turnpike. I mean, that is to one of the finest youth sports complexes, or in many cases, there are a lot of adult sports play down there as well, is in the state of Oklahoma. And obviously that the road is, when traffic during tournaments and even during just regular league play, it's over capacity. And so we're currently in the finalizing the planning and design phases to do the intersection at basically 131st, then come back and do the other two parts of the road. That project is very, 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 important to me. And the other project is a 2014 project, which has just been a challenge getting the right of way, which is Olive, which is from 61st to 71st or Albany or Kenosha, as we know them here in Broken Arrow. That's something that has taken a lot longer than I think anyone would have thought it was going to. But we've had some challenges, but I think we're working through those challenges to be able to get that project out to bid sometime in 2025. And so I'm excited about all those projects. I love road projects because that's what the public I believe in many cases cares about the most, because it has an emotional effect and it affects how they get from point A to point B in a timely fashion. And so anytime we can actually get road projects under construction and we have orange cones, I do get temporarily excited, even though it's going to cause convenience. I know pretty soon it's going to be done, and then we're going to move on to the next project.
I'm glad you mentioned Aspen Avenue there between Indian Springs and Tucson, because if you flip over to the back page, I love this before and after view here of Aspen Ridge. And when you look at that and you see this before shot and then you see the after shot, what goes through your mind?
Completion of a vision. I mean, obviously we heard from many folks in our community that there was a need for retail commercial opportunities in South Broken Arrow. And I knew all the time that it was going to happen. Sometimes development of a piece of property doesn't happen in the time that people would like for it to. It's going to happen when it's that property's time. I've learned that over my career. We were fortunate enough to own a large piece of property, which we purchased whenever we put the exchange in on the Creek Turnpike at Aspen. And we started looking at where the opportunities were. And obviously, on the heels of, several years ago, losing the Reesers at New Orleans Square, because it simply wasn't a good reinvestment for Reesers at that intersection, we began the process of trying to determine exactly where we could get a Reesers in South Broken Arrow. And we needed the traffic counts to go up. We needed the rooftops to increase. And we were blessed to have a piece of property and a developer that was willing to put the public sector and the private sector, once again, here in Broken Arrow, and this is what it's a result of: a 65,000 foot state-of-the-art Reesers, which I'm not sure if it's actually a grocery store or it's a grocery store and a destination, because obviously there's people I talk to that are hanging out on Friday night because they've got some live music sometimes during the month. You can get something to eat. I mean, it is an amazing facility that a lot of people are going to, and there's another 200,000 square feet approximately of retail commercial that are coming. So you take a look at what's here. To me, I believe it's a completion of a vision, but we're just getting started, Aaron, because there's the 14 acres across the street has been sold, and we're talking to a developer that could bring approximately 87,000 square feet total of retail commercial. There's also things happening at the Warren Theater, at Shops of Aspen Creek, also on the Ad One property that is just to the west. And so there's many things happen. But when I see this, it gets me excited, because once again, I believe we told the public we're going to do it. We made it happen, and you can see the fruits of that labor with all those new restaurants, and you actually starting to see a lot of retail commercial start to come in. The developer's putting that in now, so that means in 2025, folks are going to have access to those services as well as they do other parts of town.
Yeah, I think that that back cover is a nice reflection of proof of performance. We did what we said we were going to do with that, and like you said, it's still building out, so it's not done. Let's shift gears a little bit. One of my favorite parts is the utility rates comparison as well too, because this really lets folks know that all municipalities, there is a cost to quality of life, and that's one of the things that you like to say. And what we like to do is we like to compare how we are with some others, and this really gives folks an idea of we're fair with our rates, and there's a reason why we have to charge what we charge. It's to pay for all the materials, all the labor, the different things that go into it, and these fees go right back in to our public utility infrastructure. When you look at this utility rates comparison, are you pleased with the fact of where we are, that we're right there as far as water rates, sewer rates? We're comparable with about everybody else within the region and within the state.
Well, I always want to be competitive when it comes to utility rates because obviously there is a cost of doing business. I mean, the city has made, it has and is making a major investment and reinvestment in its infrastructure. We're talking water lines, we're talking sewer lines, stormwater management improvements, and those are big ticketed items. Those type of improvements can equal, in some cases, actually the widening of a road in some areas. I mean, replacing a trunk sewer line for sewer, $20 to $30 million to be able to make sure that line can carry the amount of load that comes from the areas that it's receiving it. And so, believe me, I just want to share this, is that when I think about the things that keep me up at night, quite frankly, as a city manager, and I have an incredible team of directors and staff and employees, and I know the council cares about this as well. One of the things that it bothers me is having to look at the utility rates and determine that we have to increase them because the cost of operations is actually going up. And it's painful, honestly, Aaron, because I understand the challenges that all residents or customers have. And so we diligently go through, Cindy Arnold and her team, along with Kenny Schwab. I mean, we pour over every single expense. Tim Robbins, super excited to have him that utility director position. We pour over every single expense in terms of what something costs for operation, the cost of personnel, the cost of supplies and materials, and we look at exactly what those costs are and make sure that that it's what we need to provide the service. And then we look at the debt service numbers, and then we look at our reserve policies. And if we're in a situation where it looks as though we're going to be short based on the amount of consumption that we're going to receive, then we try to make sure that we keep our cost, so we can do what we need to do to take care of the system and take care of the customers. And it really concerns me that, obviously I go through this painstaking process of trying to determine how to manage utilities, especially when there's rate increases. But when you look at our community and the growth that we're experiencing and the responsibility to maintain the improvements we have, and many of those are under the ground and people never see them. And if we don't do them now, we're just deferring that cost. And that's one of the things that I've been big on in my career, is that if I know I need to do something, to balance what the cost of that is versus the cost of deferring that further down the road and saying, okay, we can get this done now for this versus waiting 5 years, 10 years, knowing that cost, could be 20, 30, 40% higher. Right now, we're so far off in terms of what it costs for services and materials, that we have to really look at everything. And so I appreciate the support we get from citizens and understanding that, as a growing community, there is a cost to providing these utility services. So I'm glad you brought that up, Aaron, because it is something that I know is it's a painstaking, and we take that very serious, the council, and I do. I know all the staff does as well in terms of looking at rates.
Well, it's a difficult conversation that you have to have when you get into the budget process, but it's all part of that transparency that we talk about all the time. And while it may be a difficult conversation, it's a conversation that still needs to be had, and we still need to provide that information. And so it's really important. So I'm glad that it's one of those things that you insist on us putting in Thrive so that folks can see where their fees are going and how much they're paying in comparison to others and that sort of thing. We talked about quality of life. I love this. This might be my most favorite of pages here. This is ranking Broken Arrow. Quite a few accomplishments here in 2024 as far as the calendar year is concerned, not the fiscal year. But we were number one, according to Move Buddha, number one in the nation as far as family-friendly cities, and that's based off safe, affordable, and good schools. We were number 9 out of the top 50 U.S. cities being safest and most affordable, and we were number 10 as far as the cities where you can get the most out of your income. That speaks volumes. You got to be incredibly proud to be able to say that Broken Arrow has these high rankings.
Well, it is incredible to be recognized for your hard work. That's not why I do it. I mean, what I do every single day is try to get to yes, and I know all my staff does. And what is happening is because I think we're getting to yes. We're getting yes in terms of helping customers, getting yes to solving problems, getting to yes to taking advantage of opportunities, getting to yes to working with the private sector. You're seeing this environment that's been created the last decade for sure, that Broken Arrow is a great investment. And people are moving here. We're a city that people are coming to, not going from. People recognize that this is a safe community, that there's a great quality of life. And when you put all those ingredients together, you're going to get accolades for it. You know, for me personally, accolades are great. And for me, it's like if I'm going 4 for 5 in a softball game and 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, I like to kind of see that. But the rest of the time, you know, I just keep my nose down and keep moving forward because I know this is a community that expects us to do a good job for them and that we're going to serve them to the very best of our ability. And if we get accolades every now and then, it's nice to show that people are recognizing the hard work and the fact that we're getting to yes to serve the public.
Hey, this has been a fantastic conversation. I want to close it just by letting folks know that this is 36 pages of a lot of detail, a lot of information for you, and it is available right now on the city website, brokenarrowok.gov/thrive. And then we're going to do something a little bit differently this year. At your direction, we're going to send out letters and utility bills here probably within the next month or so, and it's going to have a QR code on it. You can scan that. That's going to pull up the digital publication as well. So this information is on there, you know, and it's interesting. One other little footnote to it too. This is kind of the Cliff's Notes version, if you will, to the FY2025 municipal budget, which is about 332 pages long on the city website. You might want to go here first and then go to that municipal budget because that's a doozy to go through.
Well, it all ties together. I mean, obviously, folks don't always have time to go in and read 300 and some pages, but they do have it available to them should they do so. And that's what's most important to the council and myself is having access. And we're going to be relaunching OpenGov early next year, which is another transparency tool that Finance Director Cindy Arnold has been working very, very hard to re-implement that gives you deep dives into exactly how our dollars are being spent and where those dollars are being spent. And I'm excited about this. But you can read this document and you can really get yourself up to speed, especially if you're a new resident or you're someone that's been here for, you know, basically your whole life to find out exactly what you're paying in sales tax, exactly what the median income is in our community, what projects that are happening in this fiscal year and next fiscal year. You can also learn about who the directors are, the city council members. And so this document right here is it is comprehensive. It's 36 pages. You can keep this. Anybody that wanted to get a copy, we'd provide them with a copy. It's going to be, like you said, online. But this is a great tool, and I want to thank you and your team to put this together because it's a lot of hard work. All the directors, they know usually around the month of July and August, they're going to get an email from you saying, get ready. It's time to lock and load on the Thrive because they know how important this is to our community. And I know what will happen is early next year, I'll start to get comments or emails or text messages or communications going, thank you. This is exactly what we needed to know about what's going on at the city and how their dollars are being spent. So I appreciate your efforts, my friend.
I'm glad you brought up the directors too, because I want to give them a shout out. They are always instrumental in getting us the information that we need for this. And this year especially so. They got it to us quickly, and it's really important that they get it to us as quickly as they did and as efficiently as they did because we need to turn this around and get it out to the public as quickly as possible. And so they keep good records, and they were fabulous to work with, every single one of them. So just to let you know here in a public setting, just how good they all were.
We have a great leadership team, Aaron, and you know they all try to get to yes and making sure the public is served to the very best of their ability. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, it's time for the state of the city, and so I'm going to be able to share some of the accolades and accomplishments that we've achieved in 2024, either through the voters' dollars that they approved or just day-to-day operations. And I get excited about it because, you know, our leadership team, our employees all the way down to those that are on the front lines, they work very hard for this community to make sure that the citizens get served very, very well. And I believe they do. We meet those high expectations, I believe, a major majority of the time. And we're working to do even better. So, you know, I'm excited that Thrive's going out, and I'm looking forward to folks looking at it. Hopefully it'll generate a lot of questions about what what's happening within our city.
I agree. If you have any questions, just hit us up. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up Twitter, or X, actually, Nextdoor, any of those places, and we'll be more than happy to help you get some answers to some of your questions. Thanks for another great conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
And that's another Vibe.
The Vibe Broken Arrow is produced by the City of Broken Arrow. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more about Broken Arrow, the city where opportunity lives.